So today we're going to do a shootout between the Waves EV2 SSL E-Series plugin that's just recently come out, the Brainworks E-Series SSL 4000 emulation, and the Waves previous SSL E release, which was the CLA Mixhub. And we're going to be looking specifically at the EQ because for me that's what makes these SSLs special. I mean, other people have different views on this, but for me, that's what I use them for. That's my go-to for drums, particularly, is those EQs. So we're going to be concentrating on that. We're going to be looking at drums and comparing like for like, same settings across all three of them, and then having a more detailed look at some of the difference in the saturation that each one has. So I hope you find this useful. And before we get started, if you can subscribe and like the video and ring the bell, that is really helpful to me and really appreciated. And so let's have a look. Okay, so here we are with the Waves SSL EV2 SSL E-Series emulation, the one that's just come out, and we've got their previous release, which is a CLA Mixhub, which is also an E-Series, CLA's E-Series. And then we have the plugin Brainworks Alliance SSL E as well. So we're going to compare these three, and I'm just going to be concentrating on the EQ. And the reason for that is that you could do a whole video just on comparing the compressors, but I don't actually use these compressors very much because I've got so many other options that will get me to where I need to get to quicker than these. Now, I'm not saying there's anything at all wrong with these compressors, they're great, but just for my own workflow, I don't tend to use them much, and I've got a lot of other go-to compressors. And because it would be a whole video in itself, I think that's probably better off for somebody else who uses them to demonstrate that. But I use these EQs a lot. For me, it's the EQs that are what these SSL desks are all about, especially for drums. They have a unique thing they can bring to drums that nothing else for me manages to do in the same way, and so that's why I decided to concentrate just on the EQs. So we're going to listen to drums. I'm going to start with snare, and I'll start with nothing engaged, no EQ, and then I'm going to go through them one at a time so you can compare them, and then we'll have a look at the saturation and things like that. I've set them all up to exactly the same settings and all at unity gain coming in. So when I click on these buttons and they turn blue, that means it's engaged. So I think they're surprisingly close. They really are very close. There are some differences, obviously. They have a slightly different quality to each other. Yeah, really, really close. So we're going to have to look now. We're going to have a look at driving the input. So in various ways, increasing the saturation. Now the volume is going to go up and down, so I'm just going to have to adjust for that. And I'm not going to be able to kind of A-B through them in quite the same kind of way, just simply because it's too difficult to quickly adjust all the volume. So I'm just going to really spend a bit of time with each one, messing with the saturation so you can hear the difference that brings. So I'll start with this one. but you could hear like it really breaks up. So let's move over to this one and do the same thing, see what we get. So like you can really smash it with this. Let's move over to this one. So different. I would say that this one is a bit more like driving the line, but even then it doesn't get anywhere near as distorted as you can drive these into. But so it's more of a subtle saturation and you don't have that extra mic line input. You can drive it more here, but I found that like even at maximum it's not getting anything close to the amount of drive you can get on these, where you can just completely crush and fuzz them out. Whereas this is much more of a subtle drive, but really a very nice one. So I wouldn't, and quality to me was a little different, so I wouldn't by any means say that these were better. They're different, and they give you that option of driving it really hard if you want to. Okay, so now let's move over to kick drum, and again we've got the same settings here. So I'm going to, again, start with kick with nothing in and then go around and listen to them in turn. Okay, so again, really close, I would say. This one maybe has a little bit more bottom end, but of course, you know, could be just a tolerance thing. You know, if I pushed up the low end on these a little bit, it probably would make up for that slight difference. They're all sounding punchy, like with the snare, very punchy sounding. Lots of tone. Again, with the snare, they all brought like lots of nice tone out. And yeah, really very similar to each other. So yeah, just to go over the fact that I am using a low pass, high pass filter rather, so that it accentuates the boost here on the low end. So I've just got it just below where I've got the boost here to give a kind of bump there and shape the curve of the EQ. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch them, switch these two to the brown knobs. This one doesn't do that, but these two both do. So to compare just back and forth between these two. So I'll start with this one. To me, they sound extremely close. Perhaps to you they don't. Perhaps to you you hear, you know, more differences than I'm hearing. So you know, leave comments below to like how they sounded to you. But either way, I just hope this was useful. And if it was, please do like the video and subscribe and ring the bell. And that's all very helpful for me. And hope to see you next time.